A dark secret buried for days is finally coming to light. And it brings up a name everyone brushed aside early on. But now? Now it is absolutely impossible to ignore. The investigation into Nancy Guthrie just took a wild turn. All eyes are suddenly shifting right toward Tomasso Scion. A guy we thought barely knew her is suddenly right back at the center of this growing true crime mystery. The crazy part is where this new lead came from. Not the cops, not some leaked report, it came straight from inside Nancy's own family. After staying dead silent for days, her son finally spoke up. He dropped a bombshell, revealing a truth nobody had ever talked about in public. His words instantly turned heads. It fired up the whole debate again, making people question everything they thought they knew about this case. It brought up one chilling thought. Have we been looking at this wrong since day one? And if so, what else is hiding just under the surface? In those tense first days after Nancy Guthrie vanished, her family stayed pretty much totally silent. They barely showed up in public. When they did, it was just desperate pleas for help or quick updates on the police search. But one guy was missing entirely. Nancy's son. Friends of the family said he was totally crushed by the whole thing. He was drowning under the heavy reality of losing his mom to such a bizarre mystery, right in her own safe home. For the longest time, he hid from the cameras completely. He turned down every interview, dodged the press, said absolutely zero about what happened. But as the clock ticked, the public pressure boiled over, the questions piled up, and wild theories spread fast. Soon enough, people started pointing fingers at his silence. The real shift happened when old police records started popping up on internet sleuth forums and message boards. Tiny details that everyone brushed off got ripped apart and studied again. Buried in there was a name nobody really talked about. Tomasso Scion. Looking at the early reports, he actually had old ties to Nancy Guthrie's family. But detectives never thought it meant anything. His name just popped up, then got totally buried by bigger leads. But when internet detectives and true crime groups started digging back in, that old connection suddenly looked huge. With all this heat and suspicion building up, Nancy's son finally decided to break his silence. He claimed staying quiet was 100% on purpose. He figured the cops already had the big facts. He didn't want to throw out wild rumors that might mess up their active investigation. To him, protecting the police work was way more important than feeding the online gossip. But as the days dragged on with zero real progress, no solid answers in sight, his mindset started changing. A terrifying thought hit him. What if keeping quiet wasn't helping at all, but just burying the truth? While talking off the record with a crime reporter, he admitted there were hidden parts of his family's past. Stuff that never made the news, which could crack this thing wide open. Things he used to blow off as just boring, everyday memories. Little echoes from back then that seemed to have nothing to do with today. But looking back now, a dark new picture was coming together. Those tiny, ignored moments might actually tie straight into the night Nancy vanished. That single realization flipped his whole world upside down. When his fear got louder than his silence, he knew he had to talk. According to her son, Tomasso Scion might hold the absolute key to figuring out what actually went down. He said Tommaso popped right back into their lives just days before Nancy went missing. And honestly, at first, nothing felt weird about it at all. Everything seemed totally normal, just routine stuff. But as time went on, little red flags started popping up. Tiny things that were just impossible to ignore. He remembered Tommaso being super curious about Nancy's daily routine. The questions sounded harmless enough, but they were weirdly exact. He asked when she went to sleep, what her weekly schedule looked like. He even asked which days she was mostly sitting home alone. Back then, nobody even blinked. It just felt like friendly small talk. But once Nancy went missing, those exact questions suddenly felt super creepy. Her son says this is the first time anyone is hearing about this. The family told the cops some of this early on, but they never knew if the detectives actually took it seriously. And on top of that, he dropped another massive red flag. Tommaso once showed a bizarre obsession with home security systems. He knew exactly how the cameras worked, how you wire them up, even the best blind spots to place them inside a house. After she vanished, especially when cops found her doorbell camera totally disabled, that creepy memory suddenly felt like a massive clue. Still, he made sure to make one thing perfectly clear. Right now, there is zero hard evidence connecting Tommaso to Nancy vanishing. He shared personal memories, old suspicions, and scattered fragments that might not even connect. But to him, these details were too important to keep buried any longer. People noticed his claims fast, especially since the official investigation had basically stalled out with zero new leads. When a true crime case runs cold, even tiny unknown details hold major weight. They have the power to completely flip the script. Criminologists think these clues could crack open a fresh line of inquiry. If Tommaso actually knew Nancy's daily routine or her home security setup, it would explain how this crime was executed with such chilling precision. Every move felt calculated. It was like the whole thing was mapped out way ahead of time, and knowing her daily habits could definitely point to a hidden motive. Still, we don't have any hard evidence linking those pieces together just yet. Detectives are warning everyone to stay grounded. When missing person cases drag on for years, human memory can warp and fade. They have to scrutinize every single detail before jumping to conclusions. Time plays tricks on witnesses. Years roll by, grief takes over, and even the most honest memories start to drift. But one thing is totally clear. Her son's testimony threw this cold case right back into the spotlight. Stuff they used to brush off is getting a second look. These minor details might just explain what actually happened the night Nancy Guthrie vanished. If these fresh memories actually tie back to the crime, then, after years of dead silence, this missing person investigation is hitting a totally new phase. The second his claims hit the news, the public reaction completely exploded. Nancy's vanishing had slowly faded from the headlines. Sure, an occasional true crime documentary mentioned it, but nothing major ever broke. That flipped overnight. A member of her own family finally stepped up with brand new, unheard details. Suddenly, the unsolved mystery was trending everywhere across social media platforms. Thousands of users started swapping updates, dissecting clues, and arguing over what these leaks meant. Many felt the son's story held the master key to the whole mystery. Dropping the name Tomasso Scion, along with stories about his creepy past behavior, felt like a massive turning point. It was exactly what this stalled investigation needed. But of course, some people stayed incredibly skeptical. People naturally asked why these secrets were just coming out right now. Critics noted how fragile human memory gets under the weight of severe stress, heavy grief, and time. They worried that his memories, even if totally honest, might be completely off base. Even with the debates, the true crime community agreed on one main thing: Nancy's tragic story cannot be forgotten. The public practically begged police to reopen the files, zeroing in hard on those Tomasso Scion leads. Online campaigns demanding fresh eyes on the case caught serious fire, fueled by the hope that intense public pressure would finally force out those long-awaited answers. Riding this new wave of interest, investigative journalists and cold case experts tore into the files all over again. They dug up old evidence, scrubbed grainy security footage, and reread early witness statements the cops initially ignored. Every scrap was analyzed, hunting for a solid link to the bombshell secrets dropping right now. With the heat turning up, the local police finally had to say something. Authorities kept the details quiet, but admitted they would definitely review old leads if this new tip proved solid. When unsolved mysteries sit idle for decades, digging through dusty evidence boxes becomes totally necessary. Modern leaps in forensic science, paired with fresh witness stories, can suddenly expose details everyone missed. Sometimes, it just takes one tiny overlooked thread to completely unravel a massive criminal investigation. Insiders claim that if the son's story checks out, detectives are ready to take some aggressive next steps. They might scrub through old suspect interrogation tapes, dig deep into Nancy's social circles right before she went missing, and pull fresh data from old security cams and phones. And Tomasso Scion, his name is definitely getting flagged to see if he popped up in any original police reports. Even so, the cops are urging extreme caution. Every wild claim has to be fact-checked and verified. You just cannot treat a memory dragged up 10 years later like hard physical evidence. Right now, the top priority for law enforcement is figuring out if this guy is actually telling the truth. Every word gets cross-checked against original files, old interviews, and known timelines. Only after passing that test can these new clues actually shift the direction of the manhunt. So, yeah, the son's bombshell definitely brought the spotlight back, but it also unlocked a terrifying new set of questions. The biggest question right now is if things really happened the way he remembers. In true crime cases stretching across decades, memories change, What felt rock solid back then can get twisted by emotions, outside voices, or newly learned details. That's exactly why double-checking facts is crucial. With Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, the gap between a blurry memory and hard evidence dictates everything. It decides if detectives actually crack the case or stay stuck at square one. Then there's the dark cloud hanging over the investigation regarding Tomasso Scion. What part did he actually play in all this? Was he just a guy she knew, whose past actions only look shady looking back? Or is there a darker tie to what went down that night? Right now, police are making it crystal clear they have zero hard proof connecting him to Nancy vanishing. Even so, the sheer mystery around his name keeps rumors flying. At the same time, a much creepier theory has started brewing. Could there be other people involved in this mystery who are still flying under the radar? In most cold cases, the real story is never simple. Secret affairs, ignored motives, and buried secrets can stay hidden for decades before finally bubbling up. Because of that, even with this fresh wave of hope, the missing person case of Nancy Guthrie is still packed with glaring holes. Until detectives get solid answers, this mystery will keep haunting both the police and the public. For a while, it really looked like the investigation was dying out. Tips dried up, momentum stalled, and the rush to find her just faded away. But everything flipped upside down when Nancy's son finally spoke. His story forced cops to completely rethink the timeline, dropping brand new details nobody had ever heard. Hearing about that weird past behavior, mixed with a fresh heat on Tomasso Scion, blew the whole thing wide open. Even though no hard proof ties these clues together just yet, there's a good chance huge puzzle pieces are missing. In massive criminal investigations, one tiny missed clue is all it takes to bust things open. If the rumors about Tommaso turn out to be completely true, this investigation could shift into high gear, kicking off a phase where old clues get a second look, ties get tested, and totally new questions start popping up. Even with all this, the story remains totally blurry. What we know so far is just a tiny fraction of a massive picture. We need serious hard facts before anyone starts pointing fingers or closing the book. In situations like this, the whole truth never drops on day one. It drips out slowly, pieced together from tiny fragments that detectives have to carefully build over time. Right now, one thing is absolutely guaranteed: this case isn't over. Massive questions are still hanging. What really happened that night? Who was that mystery person on the security cameras? And what about her complicated personal life? And as fresh leads make it feel like answers are finally right around the corner, one heavy question keeps echoing in the background. Will we ever learn the truth? Or will Nancy Guthrie's story just stay an unsolved mystery forever? During a recent interview, her daughter spoke out for the whole family, sending a huge thank you to everyone who has been backing them up. She talked about Nancy not just as a public face, but as a real human, someone incredibly kind, fiercely loyal, and packed with energy. A woman who loved her family to the core, whose sheer warmth left a massive mark on everyone she met. Her grandchildren were constantly right there by her side, clinging to her, wrapping her in massive hugs, and giving her so much love. To those kids, she was way more than a grandmother. She was their entire universe, packed with wild stories, constant laughs, and core memories. Nancy genuinely lived life to the absolute fullest. She loved having fun, adored traveling, and found pure joy in tiny, quiet moments. As a friend, she was fiercely loyal and real, always ready to listen, always giving you warmth, empathy, and rock-solid support. Talk to her for 5 minutes, and you instantly understood why she meant the world to so many people. She just had this energy, a mix of pure kindness, deep compassion, and a hope that stuck with you long after she left the room. And now, with her suddenly gone, that massive void she left behind feels totally impossible to fill. To her family, she was literally everything: a mother, a pillar of strength, the absolute glue holding them together through life's worst storms. No matter how bad things got, she picked optimism. She clung to hope and spread that energy to everyone in her circle. That's why they still believe she will come home. Her bright light just cannot disappear into thin air. Despite the pure hell they've been through, the brutal pain, the endless not knowing, they want the world to know they just want their mom back. Kids who miss her terribly every single second. To them, she's way more than just a parent. She's the heartbeat of their home. At 84 years old, Nancy is fragile. She lives with constant pain, needing her daily medication not just to feel okay, but literally to survive. Without it, every single passing minute gets heavier, totally unbearable. That harsh reality makes everything even more urgent. Her family already knows about the ransom rumors swirling around. They are ready to do whatever it takes. To talk, to listen, to cooperate. But in a world of deepfakes and altered audio, they are begging for one thing above all else. Hard, undeniable proof of life for Nancy. If someone is holding her, they are pleading for a call. They sit waiting, ready to hear whatever you need to say, just praying this agonizing silence will finally break.